special meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners. And we'll start first with the roll call, please, Kim.
Kathleen Mills.
Here.
Ellen Rodkey. Here. Israel Herrera.
Here.
Jim Whitlatch.
Here.
Okay, so we do have all four members here. And we sometimes have special meetings when we have things that need to be addressed, we feel like maybe separately from all of the business in our regular meetings. Today, it is the review of a resolution 23-02, policy 13220, to a change of how structures, what types of structures are permitted on park properties. So, Paula, you want to start us off?
Good afternoon, Board of Park Commissioners. I'm Paula McDevitt. I'm the Director of the Parks and Recreation Department. And staff this afternoon is recommending approval of Resolution 2302, titled Use of Structures on Park Properties. Just a little bit of background. The parks and properties and facilities under the authority of the Board of Park Commissioners and the Bloomington Parks and Recreation Department are intended for the recreational use of the whole community. The department is, of course, as you know, responsible for maintaining parks and trails and program spaces throughout the whole park system. The Board of Park Commissioners have the authority to set policy to support the mission and work of the department. Camping structures and makeshift enclosures have been set up in park locations, prohibiting the use and enjoyment of these spaces by the whole community. These camping structures and makeshift enclosures have become a serious public health risk and safety issues due to vandalism, illegal activity, the accumulation of abandoned property, and garbage. Resolution 2302 outlines the reasons for the resolution and the adoption of Policy 13220, entitled Use of Structures on Park Properties. This policy addresses the concerns presented by enclosures while still permitting the appropriate use of shade structures. This policy, however, is not intended to preclude the use of tents or similar enclosures that are authorized by the department's special use permit process or in association with Bloomington Parks and Recreation events, programs, and tournaments. Nor is this policy intended to prohibit unenclosed shade structures. Unenclosed shade structures provide relief to park users from exposure to sun, rain, and snow and other elements, but do not shield activities occurring beneath the shade structures from public view. The makeshift structure that will no longer be permissible, shade structure that would no longer be permissible, are shade structures that are located in areas so that an activity beneath the shade structure is not fully or partially obstructed from view, or obstructions or other materials are placed around a shade structure as to fully or partially obstruct the activity beneath the shade structure. So that is a brief overview of the resolution and the policy within the resolution. We'd like to take you through some data point slides for further information and background on the resolution and policy. And for that, I'll introduce Tim Street.
Thanks, Paula.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Tim Street, Operations and Development Division Director for Bloomington Parks. Got some slides coming up here. I'm just going to take you quickly through an overview of some data. Let me check my clicker here. No dice, Kim, but that's okay. I'll just tell you. So we have data compiled from August of last year through July of this year based off of incident reports and a couple other pertinent points just to share with you in background to this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I know there's a lot of discussion to be had, but Kim, if you wouldn't mind going forward, this is the current security contract that Parks enforces and has in our different park locations, different patrols that work in Switchyard and other core downtown parks. Next slide, Kim. This is incident reports by location for the 1-year period ending at the end of July, so going back to August 2022. You can see our top incident reports. There were about 1,900 incident reports from Marshall Security overall, ranging from notes on things that are broken, lights out, notes to maintenance, to more serious issues, police, fire, EMS on site, things like that. So these are by location. One thing to bear in mind here is that Switchyard does have more of a security presence with some exclusive patrols to Switchyard, so it makes sense that Switchyard would also sort of necessarily see maybe some more incidents than some of the other parks. But you can see by far and away, Switchyard and Seminary are the leading locations of incident reports, though we do see them regularly in all of our parks. Kim, next slide. Total incidents by month. Just pulled this data by month just to see if there was any sort of clear trend to look at or observe or anything. There isn't particularly one other than, we had a very low number in December of 22. Kim, next one, please. This is the incident reports by category, and these work like tags. So one incident report might have multiple tags to it, so the total number here is going to total more than the total number of incident reports. But as you can see, our top 5 categories of things we get reported from security staff are notes to maintenance. That often accompanies any kind of spill mess or issue that needs to be taken care of by our custodial staff. Substance abuse, property damage or vandalism, unsafe conditions, or spill mess. These are the categories that are reported. And Kim, next one. We also keep track of needles that are found in parks. This is something that has been tracked in the Parks Department since at least 2020. These are the numbers. You can see we did have a decrease in 2022. 2023, this is data for about halfway through the year. So to extrapolate, what I would anticipate if things continue as expected for that to be approximately double by the end of the year. And I believe that is it for the data we want to present right now. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Okay, do we board members have any questions or comments for Paula or Tim? Any comments from Jim or questions?
Not at the present time. Thank you for the presentation, but I don't have any questions right now.
Okay. All right. We can move into a public comment section, which I believe we're going to, it's hard to tell the number of people that are here versus the number of people that want to comment, but allow up to 30 minutes for people to comment. We usually provide commenters with 2 minutes to come up and speak, and and ask you to sign in, please, at the podium. And then Kim will keep the time for us and let us know when you're closing in on your 2 minutes. So if anyone would like to speak, please just come on up to the podium and tell us your name and sign in, and we'd be happy to hear from you.
My name is Talisha Kopic. I'm with Downtown Bloomington, and we've heard this summer of issues with tents and structures around the downtown and additional trash and waste and various behaviors, and which has really created a whole issue in the downtown. And so we would be in support of this ordinance to prevent the structures in the parks, because what happens at 11 o'clock when all of those come down, they come out onto private properties, and we've seen a dramatic increase. That the tents tend to increase people to have more possessions and carry them around with them, and so increase the cost. So, an encampment that's 10 by 15 is $544 to clean up. And so there are people all over town that are cleaning up after they've been abandoned, and we feel like this ordinance would be helpful in helping the entire community address all the issues that come up. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. This is Christopher Emge from the Greater Bloomington Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for having this today. We do support this resolution, and it's really outlined very well in Ms. McDevitt's memo and stated very well by Talisha, the previous speaker. It comes down to both a public health issue and an aesthetics issue, both the public health with regards to illicit drug use, other illegal activities within those, and aesthetics of just looking at tents and not feeling safe within those, within the public grounds area that we hold so dear here in the award-winning Parks Department. When you see those tents, there's a worry that goes about you, or you look away. And I think we get calls at the chamber from very many of our 170 members, many of which are small businesses that call us and with issues with regards to some of the behaviors they see, the trash that they look at, the needles they have to pick up. And I think these tents and enclosures sort of create an atmosphere for that. I think this is a good first step in making sure that this is less of an issue and where the parks can be enjoyed by the entire community. I thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Nicholson. I'm a community volunteer with many of these populations that are in the parks. I just would like to remind everyone, if we could use people first language, that would be outstanding. Using terms like unhoused individuals, not pointing fingers at a certain population of people. However, I would like to say that until we can truly address the unhoused population and serve them in a proper way, I don't think that it is reasonable to have aesthetic concerns as a community. I feel like supporting individuals and doing placements of sharps containers in these parks. I believe that many of the community members that I've worked with over the years have been very willing to dispose of things safely and keep the community safe and clean. It's just the matter of accessibility. I believe that it's most our responsibility as community members to support people as the best we can, and if we're not able to support those people, then displacement is not truly the answer. Thank you.
Do I need to say my name? My name is Marcus Moyer. I live and run a business close to the park. And I really support this. I think it's wonderful. That's it.
Good afternoon. I'm Kyle Halverson. I work with the Indiana Recovery Alliance. I work with the unhoused population in this town, and honestly, the first two people that just came up here sort of made me want to fucking puke, because I hear about aesthetics in this town. I hear about what's good for business. We're talking about people. We're talking about people who live outside year-round in this town that's democratically led, and don't give a shit about the people in this unhoused population. I'm shaking right now. I'm so mad. The idea that someone can't look at people that are in a public park, they can't look at them, I'm sorry, but that's fucking insane. Like, that's absolutely insane. These are human beings. These are human beings. They're a part of this community, whether you like it or not. They don't have anywhere to go. We have no shelters in this town, not enough. We don't have enough housing. We don't have enough affordable housing because everybody in this town wants to keep kissing the ass of the people who bring the money into this town. I don't understand it. We have a giant population of unhoused community, and there are so little resources for them. The shelter at the women's shelter is closing down at Wheeler. Where are those women supposed to go? Ship them to Indianapolis? That's the plan? Away from their families, away from their community? Like, what are we talking about here? We have money in this town. We have no vision, but we have money. Why can't we do something for people who are less fortunate? Why can't we do something more? I don't understand this. Like, we can do everything for a certain population, but nothing for anyone else? Is that my time? Great, thank you very much.
I'm Bob Skank. I own the post office, the downtown post office, and the fence went up. The post office put it up. The people have been assaulted. They didn't put it up for no reason. You know, I'm in support of this if we can enforce it. I agree with this gentleman. We need to do something for these people. But every day you go to the post office and they're working 4 and 5 hours a day picking up the trash. Now, you might be homeless, but you gotta be clean. It's just terrible down there. And before they came to Seminary Park, it started at People's Park on 5th Street. You know, they clean up one area, they move to another area. So now we've got a nice Kirkwood, but there's no homeless people living in People's Park. You know, we need to address this problem. You know, we need to find them a place. We need to take care of these people, but they can't keep tearing up individuals' property. And that's all I got.
Thank you.
I didn't say kill them all.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hannah Gorman, concerned citizen, I guess. I think it's terrifying that this is what we're spending our time and effort discussing instead of figuring out things that will help people get out of the system. This is only going to continue putting people in the jail. I think it's terrifying. I think it's terrifying that we're talking about aesthetics over human beings' lives. Don't really understand that. Another point I wanted to make is that just because the tents are gone doesn't mean folks aren't going to gravitate toward that area. It's right next to Shalom. They need to be near resources. Like, folks are still going to be in that park, so there's still probably going to be people calling about them and complaining about them just because they're in the park. So that's one point. It's also going to affect like resources that come to the park to find people, to help them get housing, to take them out of the park so it's not an issue. Like, there's so many people that like, that's the only place we can find folks is at Seminary Park, you know, like to give them health care, to work on housing, so many things, and that's gonna be affected too if a lot of people can't set up there. So it's also just a community building area. Like, people experiencing homelessness don't really have that many places to go because they're pushed around anywhere they go, they're pushed around. So this is a nice place for them to be with their friends and actually have like an okay life. I don't know, like clearly they're experiencing very, very, very hard things that no one here understands unless they've experienced it. So it's a meeting grounds for them to be with each other. So yeah, basically I just can't understand why this is what we're focusing on. So thank you.
Hi, My name is Sydney Zulik. I want to start off by, thanking the park board and everyone else who has dedicated so much of their time to making Bloomington parks as amazing as possible. But I can't support this ordinance. I lived on the square for 2 years. I'm a city council candidate in District 6. I understand this issue from multiple lenses. But I can't help but think how many opportunities we haven't fully discovered to help people experiencing homelessness before we impact them by hurting them. So before you pass this resolution, I really encourage you to exhaust every single strategy that would help people experiencing homelessness to have safer places to exist, safe places to put their stuff. I know someone said that having tents gives them more space to have stuff. We all have stuff. The only difference is we have homes to put our stuff in. I guarantee you almost everyone in this room has more stuff than a homeless person can put in their tent. Okay, so we can do better. We can do better as a city, but this isn't really the strategy that I encourage you to take. I understand the public health risk. I admit that I don't necessarily know how to solve it, but I know that this won't. This is something that I'm very passionate about. I totally understand that this is something that I will have to work on city council, but I really encourage us to find policies, strategies, and exhaust every helpful option before we move on to the hurtful ones. Aesthetics is not the argument that we're going to be using here. That's kind of ridiculous. We want people to be safe. Thank you.
I'm also shaking a little bit. Hi, my name is Tonda Radawan. I've lived in Bloomington since 1999. I'm currently on the Bloomington-Monroe County Human Rights Commission. There are a lot of communities that consider housing a human right. I hope that we get to a point here in ours where we recognize and move forward into doing that. I'm not sure if this is a good place for a question or if I'm just posing that as a comment. I really do appreciate the addendum and information that was sent out by the CFRD director talking about what they have been doing through their department as far as providing a lot of funding and having a lot of meetings and talking about the After Hours Ambassador and the work that they do. They're also talking about a lot of the I'm just shaking so hard. You'd think I'd know how to talk in front of a group of people by now. About the downtown outreach grants and the amount of funding that had gone out to a lot of the different organizations that serve and provide services to people that are facing housing insecurity and are still trying to find homes here in our town. But I guess I'm curious if, before a decision's made, if there hasn't already been outreach with those, long list of people that's on the memo that received money to provide services, if they've been consulted, if they have ideas on what could be done to maybe better, as a community, come up with a solution. I think they'd be a great resource. The city thought that they would be a good resource by providing them all these funds. So if we haven't talked to those organizations and agencies that are providing direct service, not just driving by wishing that the tents were just, in a park by a river for families camping, maybe that would be a good way to get that information. And in the meantime, while that consideration is being made, if there could be more public availability where people can find the garbage bags and the trash cans and the receptacles in the public bathroom, public bathrooms, I think that would really help with the waste situation as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. Thanks for letting me speak here today before the Parks Board. I'm Russ Skiba. I'm a professor emeritus at Indiana University. formerly with the school psychology program. And I don't normally bring that in, but in this case, this is very much an issue of mental health services, mental health and social services, and I think this resolution roundly ignores both of those things. The first issue is what will happen to the individuals who are put out of the tents in these places. They are folks, most of whom don't want to be in a shelter. They will be looking for other places in town to put up. Many of them will go downtown because there are good overhangs, and they'll sleep in doorways like many of them do now. Some of them have serious mental health problems. And these people with mental health problems will be then in a state of crisis because they have just lost their temporary home and many of their possessions. So what will we have? We'll have people with serious mental health problems in a crisis situation confronting the citizens of Bloomington who are walking around downtown. This is a resolution with the potential for very serious unintended consequences. Second, the issue of unhoused folks is a very complex issue. Some of them arrived in that state because of finances, some of them because of mental health issues, and frankly, some of our problem here is because we have too many social services. You know, other places in Indiana send their unhoused folks here because they know how many services we have. So any singular issue like this, any singular attempt to fix this with just something simple like kicking them out of parks is really just ignoring the complexity, and especially because this is involving law enforcement. It is always dangerous when we take an issue of mental health or social services and put it in the hands of law enforcement. I just want to say really quick, I'm very sorry to go over here, but I want you to think about, I know it's tempting to kick this upstairs to the city council, but think about the last time that happened, the infamous 9-hour meeting that was essentially this same issue. Should we allow unhoused folks to camp in our city parks? I don't think we want to go there again into that kind of thing. This is a complex issue that deserves more than tenting or no tenting. This is an issue that deserves some serious consideration. I hope you vote no on this.
All right, do we have any other comments? Okay, online or? Okay, sure. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Hello, my name is Nick Angelos. I'm a recent IU grad. I participate in a group of students and community members that serve unhoused people at Seminary Park 3 times a week, called Help Ourselves. And we set up structures. I understand that our structures are not going to be prohibited with this ordinance, but I would like you all to consider something. Do you like being watched while you sleep? Is that something that you enjoy doing or think people should have to experience? Because sleep is something that's a human right. It's something everybody has to do, and if people have their possessions on them, they're constantly afraid of them being stolen by other people, whether they're unhoused or not, and so they may have to stay up at night. So if they do not have structures where they can sleep in peace during the day, there's going to be consequences. There's going to be consequences because of their mental health. And if this gets passed, there's going to be consequences because I organize them. Is that clear? Thank you.
Thank you. And you had an online comment, Kim? Yes.
Yourself, you will be next to go.
Hi, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, Eric Spoonmore, President of the Greater Bloomington Chamber of Commerce. I want to follow up and perhaps clarify some remarks made by my colleague, Mr. MG, earlier. So I just want to reiterate and make sure that everyone understands that the Chamber's #1 priority in supporting this particular measure is safety. And I understand that there is a daily report of security incidents and activities that's reported back to the Parks Department. I've asked to get added to that daily report. My understanding is that those are done daily, and it documents a lot of the very concerning safety issues that have been seen in the parks by various security companies that are providing services to the city, including a number of weapons that have been confiscated, large amounts of used syringes, evidence of prostitution, sex trafficking. And as you can imagine, this is something that is deeply, deeply concerning when women are put in those types of situations. And so the chamber just wants to make sure that every citizen in the city of Bloomington is safe, regardless of their housing status.
Please, you are allowed to speak, and he's allowed to have his 2 minutes.
Is my 2 minutes up? I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And so we want to ensure the safety of everybody. And so we really do see this as also an issue of equity and accessibility. There's a lot of folks, all citizens should be able to access our parks. We want to make sure that everybody has equitable access to the parks. And so we see this policy as ensuring that. And I think that, well, I'll just leave my comments there. My time is probably up, but thanks for allowing me the opportunity to speak. Thanks to all the board members for their consideration of this, and the chamber does support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other online comments? Okay.
Vaughn, you're up. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. This is Vaughn Welch. Can you hear me? Thank you for a couple moments to speak. Sorry I couldn't be there in person for this important topic. I'd like to second my citizens who speaking against this proposal and just say that while I have a great deal of respect for the concerns about safety expressed in this meeting, I have yet to hear a compelling understanding how this particular proposal would improve those safety concerns, except under some assumption that we are going to cause a large number of people to not just not put up tents, but actually move to some other area of the city. So barring some greater leadership and greater plan to address this complicated problem, this feels like we're just playing whack-a-mole again. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Renee, you're next. If you'd like to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. John, Mary, Tom, Lisa, and the list goes on. It is over 350 people long today alone. Every year during Welcome Week and the beginning of fall semester, the city, as well as this body, makes the lives of our unhoused even harder. It's time to change that. It's time to set aside spaces within the city limits close to services where people can sleep, both during the day and at night, where they feel welcome. You care about people? Don't bother saying that after hearing all of our comments. I was always taught in school and throughout my adulthood to be careful of those whose words don't match their actions. If they don't add up, it's usually because truth wasn't included in the equation. And then refusing to be held accountable once making bad decisions is called gaslighting. 4 people appointed by our mayor should not hold all people in Bloomington hostage. Where is the compassion and empathy really? If people and parents are nervous with their kids being around people who are unhoused, perhaps seeing these neighbors would be a wonderful opportunity to teach them about empathy and compassion. Ask why people are so compelled to look away. The inhumanity of doing this is telling of who we are as people and what we're made of. people all can indeed still enjoy these properties. Your data charts showing incidences make it sound as if you know unequivocally that these were done by those having structures you want to disallow. That is patently false, and having said data weakens your argument to do this. Feeling unsafe doesn't mean a person is unsafe. I've actually been told that by people in the administration. The doublespeak of this proposed ordinance is nothing more than wanting to disappear our neighbors again.
All right.
Who do
I'm
you-
sorry.
what-
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Last
Yeah.
paragraph?
I'm sorry,
Last
it's been
paragraph?
about 2 minutes and 15 seconds, and I don't know if we have other people who would want to speak as well.
Hand washing, bathrooms are what we need to really focus on. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other comments? Okay.
Nathan, it's your turn if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Thank you. I will speak very briefly against this proposal. That the people before me have all said it better than I could. And specifically, I wanted to go back to the Chamber of Commerce's comments about access. And in the decade I've been in Bloomington, I've seen the cost of providing what the city considers security to the parks grow and grow and grow as more and more access is regulated and controlled. So I think what the gentleman from the Chamber of Commerce was maybe intending to say was access and equity for people whose values I agree with. I'm not sure how restricting the way people can use our city's property increases access, and encourage you to vote no against this. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Kim, do we have? Okay.
Sam, you're ready.
Hello, can you hear me? Hi, my name is Sam Dixon. I'm a downtown Bloomington resident. I've been here downtown for the last 5 years. I just wanted to join the chorus of voices resisting this proposal and say that it is a very facile and dehumanizing proposal. It should not stand. Furthermore, it violates the Eighth Amendment according to Martin versus Boise, which was a Ninth Circuit Court decision handed down in 2018 in Boise regarding the rights of people to sleep outdoors in public. The court found that it was cruel and unusual punishment to criminalize this under the false pretense that people sleeping in parks and tents have any choice in the matter. So I think this policy is attacking a lot of problems from the wrong angle. It's about pushing people out of view and further putting them at risk of harassment and suffering. And it is the wrong direction to go for Bloomington. Furthermore, the perception of violence surrounding the unhoused community is a very mythologized perception, especially among our wealthy and ownership class in Bloomington. The popular perception is that people who are unhoused are going to commit violence, but none of the data really bears that out. In fact, a lot of good studies show unhoused people are at increased risk to be victims of violence and hate crimes, and hundreds of them are killed in the U.S. every year just for being homeless. I yield my time.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Blue B, if you would unmute yourself, it's your turn.
Yes, it's Alan Rose. Hear me?
Yes.
So I'm Alan Rose of Holistic Affordable Housing. Obviously, there are things that are kind of understandable on either side of the dichotomy, and it is kind of a first things first approach to supply some place for these people to be. It's not just that they're guarding possessions overnight, they are literally run off from wherever they try to go, and so often that is when they're allowed to sleep is during those hours during which the tents are still permitted. A compromised position would be something like the property that Hopewell, the old hospital site, is going to be developed, but at present is vacant, and that's going to take a while. That could be designated. It's near the same area and services, and you could even put up art walls, green walls, some kind of screening, place porta potties, of course the needle compartments, and something like showers or something to deal with those safety and hygiene issues. And that's step one. Just trying to make these people go away is not addressing anything, and as others have said, is going to cause more interactions with law enforcement and potential conflicts there. It's understandable that people are not quite comfortable with this. They're not necessarily have contempt for these people, but if your only approach is to make them go away and you're not addressing the basic need for some kind of a camp land, some kind of a sanctioned area that is not pushed out into the hinterlands, causing commutes. And so I think you should consider some kind of a compromise and a designated space so that these people can get their rest, because without sleep, there are many health consequences. It affects the immune system and, of course, causes mental health distress. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Oh, okay, yes, you have another?
That was it.
Okay. All right, yes, Paula?
An email that came in, and she asked that I read it during public comment. Good
Okay.
afternoon. My name is Vicki Watermere Paulette, and I am an almost 50-year-old resident of Bloomington and Monroe County. I have concerns about the way our public parks are being used by folks camping in them. I support the proposal to disallow erecting tents and other forms of shelters in our parks. However, I would like to see this in the case at all times, not just during the day. I visit the woods in RCA Park on a daily basis, rain or shine. In the last few years, I have seen evidence of drug use, camping, and campfires in the woods. One area also betrayed evidence of a tree being burned by a fire that was built at its base. I have also seen evidence of human waste and paper used for cleaning oneself after toileting. Gargantuan trash is left in the woods. I often take garbage bags back to the woods to pick up refuse. I am also concerned about these things in all parks, but especially RCA Park Woods, because it is a green jewel and should be preserved as such. It is used by people of all ages, and activities such as camping could result in the loss of our woods to fire, injury, or health problems. If you are allowing camping in this woods at night, it needs to be monitored more thoroughly than it is, and I would hope that camping would not be allowed. I appreciate the opportunity to voice my concerns. I say all this as someone who has spent the last 24 years before retirement working with Bloomington's unhoused population.
All right, thank you. We have just a few more minutes of public comment time. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Yep.
Hi, my name is Jerry Hayes. We have a serious problem, but I think we're confusing the issue here. We need to address the unhoused population by providing services and mental health services, addiction services. But let's not confuse the issue here. This issue is really about, it's not about the unhoused per se, it's about public safety and public health issues. So let's just keep focused on the real issue. Thank you.
All right, any other comments before we wrap up the public comment period? Okay, any questions or comments from board members? Any questions, comments? Or from?
I'll just make a comment that I appreciate hearing all the input from everyone that has made input today, and there's no question that we need social services and other issues dealt with, and we need those available for everyone that's involved in these issues. But our issue as the park commissioners is to take care of the parks and to make the parks accessible to all and to have a safe environment for all that utilize the park, regardless of their housing status and other issues that may be involved. This is not an effort to, or this is not banning people from the parks, this proposal. It's not kicking people out of the parks. It's assisting us in ensuring that we have a safe environment in the parks. And so I'm in support of the ordinance and resolution, and would support it passing that today. Thank you.
Okay. I would just kind of tack on to a little bit of what Jim has said, that unfortunately when these issues come up, it becomes, and I totally understand this, it becomes a little bit of a referendum on like how we as a society are helping people who are unhoused. And those are all great questions to ask. You know, we, as Jim said, we're tasked with overseeing what goes on in parks. I mean, we're not, the Parks Department is always in liaison with social service agencies and has a partnership program with Centerstone to help, but we cannot, I mean, we cannot like solve the problem of being unhoused in Bloomington. And definitely there should be more resources, and definitely there should be more space. But as Jim said, we are here to make sure that the parks properties are safe and accessible for everyone. And frankly, as the people also oversee what the decisions the Parks Department makes, we can't really continue this cycle of the, I don't know, the needle removal and the trash removal and the storing of belongings. And it gets a little bit hard, I think, as a Parks Commissioner to say, we're just doing the same thing over and over again, and we don't seem to be finding our way out of it. So I would also tend to be in support of this. I don't know if it's going to make a difference. I'll just be honest, I don't know. But I know we're kind of at a crisis point here, so.
Yeah, and I would also just echo, you know, this is a really complex issue. I would caution our community from having a stigma against the unhoused population. They're all members of our community, and you know, they're all, everyone. I think what we want to say is that everyone is welcome in parks, and that they need to be accessible for everyone. You know, I would just say again, this is not about, you know, it's a really complex issue, and our role is making sure that park staff can do the job that they have to do to create, you know, to maintain our facilities. And yeah, I think everyone in this room realizes that this is a community issue, and that we all play a part in it, and that I'm going to vote in favor of passing this resolution. But I think we still have a lot of work to do with our community and family resources, with the Heading Home group, to figure out what's going to happen now that the Wheeler Women's Shelter is closing. We all have a lot of a part to play in helping solve those issues.
And I would like to emphasize something that I heard through the public comment, that is the need for conversation in our city, in our community. But since the last time we voted for a resolution, there was involvement of everyone, the community, the organization, the administration, because this conversation was needed. And since the last time, there has been this kind of a conversation There are things that need to be improved, but one of the things that my colleagues have mentioned is also our charge to see how to see parks in the way it has been working in recent years with health problems and also the safety, because we care, we take into account and house people, but the thing is, as someone said, the thing is that the results that we have seen with the report from team is that we have seen not a concern from the unhoused people to treat parks as the best way, and not finding, a compromise to take care of the parks, to behave in a way that all citizens should be in a park. So as my colleagues have mentioned, I'm also in favor of this ordinance.
Okay, all right, so I believe, do we have a motion then to approve Resolution 2302? Oh, sorry,
Go ahead.
Jim.
Go ahead, Alan. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, okay, I'll move to approve the resolution of 2302, policy number 13220, use of structures on park properties.
Okay, and do we have a second?
I will second.
All right, and a roll call vote, please, Kim, of all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Herrera.
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay, motion is unanimously carried. I do want to thank again everyone who came to comment. I mean, I truly, Jim said this, others have said this, do appreciate it. Written down some of the things that you say and plan to hopefully follow up with some different organizations as best we can. So we really appreciate everyone's input today. Thank you.
So anybody who has private property they would like to open up and would like to house someone, you're more than welcome to, because this means that everybody who lives on public property now is gone. There's nowhere else for them to go.
Okay, sir, I'm just going to adjourn the meeting, and then you can announce that to everyone. So I would just like to adjourn our special meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners. Thank you.